Clemson and Florida State are back at the table, willing to talk, willing to work things out with the Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC. Clemson and Florida State are back there, ready to talk and maybe willing to, based on some conversations that are happening, drop the lawsuits that are at the very least annoying the heck out of the ACC and at the most threatening to rip the ACC apart, it seems. So we have to talk about that. And I have an excerpt from an ESPN article on these very same talks that I'll read for you just to give you the background. Talks between Clemson, Florida State, and the ACC have ramped up in recent weeks, according to sources, on a proposal that would allot a greater share of revenue to schools based on brand valuation and television ratings, as well as potentially alter the expiration of the league's grant of rights, which currently runs through 2036, in exchange for the Tigers and Seminoles dropping their lawsuits against the conference.
Interesting.
I have to be honest.
Okay.
I've got the devil and angel shoulder thing happening right now.
Go on.
I've got two different voices in my head that are saying very different things.
Okay.
The angel on my shoulder is saying, this is kind of a logical ending. The 2036 end to the grant of rights does feel ridiculously far into the future of a sport that is changing by the day. It would be a way for the top end of the ACC to maybe make enough money to be on more level playing field with the Big Ten and the ACC. And most importantly, it would keep the ACC that I love mostly, if not fully, intact. And it would save everyone a boatload of money in legal fees. That's the angel on my shoulder saying,
okay.
Oh, this is good. Oh,
Go on.
This Clemson, Florida State, they can be happy members of the conference again, and they don't have to leave. And, the Textile Bowl and everything else is still going to be around, and Florida State and Miami are still going to I don't know why I turned the angel on my shoulder into like a fast-talking, kind of annoying 8-year-old.
I mean, they might be.
The devil on my shoulder is on the other side saying, play hardball. I want Clemson and I want Florida State to get nothing. I want them to crawl back with their tail between their legs and beg to be allowed to stay. And I think there's a world where the ACC could do it. The grant of rights, again, the biggest winner of all of this ACC talk, all of the expansion talk, all of the conference realignment is whatever lawyer wrote the contract that gave the media rights to of the ACC members to that grant of rights situation where they can't get out until 2036 without paying $500 million. It is ironclad. It has to be. It has to be airtight. No loopholes at all. Because there's 0% chance Clemson and Florida State would be willing to settle if they thought they could get out of that contract.
Oh, yeah. If I'm Clemson and Florida State, if I think I can win, I don't think I settle.
I think the ACC could have played hardball and won.
They might.
And they
still might.
They could have looked at like gone full Willy Wonka. You lose. You get nothing. You stole a fizzy lifting drink. You don't have to do the whole monologue. But you could have. And I kind of wanted to see it. Mostly for Florida State, but Clemson, you chose sides, so you got to catch some strays as well. I don't want to set up a hierarchy system where everybody isn't getting paid the same unless you absolutely have to. And maybe the ACC feels they absolutely have to, like, kind of acquiesce to these compromises because of the impending legal fees, because even like that hardball, take them to court, our contract is ironclad, even that win, right, by the end you won, it's going to be expensive, right? There's legal fees, lawyer fees that seem never ending between here and that victory, right? It would be much more of like the Rocky fight win where, yeah, technically you won, but both your eyes are swollen shut. You can barely stand. You need to go to the hospital immediately, but congratulations on the win. So maybe the ACC is trying to avoid that. Like, we could beat Clemson and Florida State, but we're going to get the crap knocked out of us between now and then, or We can agree to some of these compromises, which they're considering now. They haven't been agreed to by any stretch, but the talks are happening. We can agree to these compromises now, and we don't have to beat each other up for 12 rounds to get where we're going to go. Here is my biggest concern. There's actually two of them. The expiration of the league's grant of rights. Obviously, if that gets shortened too much, then the ACC will be at great risk whenever that final is, right? If they lower it from 2036 to 2030, I'm going, that's not that far in the future, and then I really am going to be worried about the future of the ACC starting in 2030. The other one is the proposal that would allot a greater share of revenue to schools based on brand valuation and television ratings. That's bad for parity. I would be more in favor of if you win, you get more money than if we have to evaluate your brand and the biggest brands get more money.
Yeah, I wonder if that's based off TV ratings and those kinds of things.
Television ratings are part of it,
Yeah.
and I get that a little bit. It's the brand valuation word that worries me. What is that like? We're going to dole out money based on how many people talk about you on Twitter?
Like, yeah, what's your Q score?
Are we going to have to be doing like random Family Feud tests? Like 100 people in a mall have been surveyed, and they were asked who is the most famous team in the ACC. Number one answer is they get $8 million. Number two answer, they get $6 million. Like, is that what we're going to do here? Because that bars upward mobility, right? Because if you do it based on winning, all right, well, you know, if you're one of the bottom feeders and you finish sixth, you get a decent check. If you finish fourth after that season, because you used that check wisely, you get a bigger check. And if you go up to third, you get a bigger check. And then eventually you can work your way all the way up until you're one of the top earners in the conference consistently. If you do it based on brand valuation and television ratings, way to go, Syracuse. You worked really hard. You finished third. We're going to give all the money to Florida State, who stinks because they were good in the 90s and there's fans that care about them. Because Jameis Winston exists and people really remember that team and liked it 10 years ago. So it's almost like, you know, you don't have the ability to earn that money by winning on the field. And if that's the case, then you might as well just like have different conferences. You might as well just have, all right, we're going to have the ACC A team and the ACC B team. Everyone in the A is going to get this much money because they're big brands. Everyone in the B's are going to get no money because you're not a big brand.
Yeah, what's the ratio? Like, what's the formula on that? Like, how are you basing that off of? Because, again, I understand television ratings if more teams are watching you. And guess what? If you're winning, you're more apt to be put on better networks. Like, for example, Boston College, if they keep playing well and they have a game later on this season against another ranked team, well, guess what? They're going to put you on ESPN as opposed to putting you on the CW. That's just simply how it's going to work. So that's kind of like, hey, winning, you get more prime TV spots, the whole deal.
I'm going to try to do this without insulting any ACC team and their fan base. So I'm actually going to insult my alma mater, Delaware.
Go on.
How you calculate something like brand valuation, it's subjective. We used to joke and say, this is a like off-color joke, whatever, that our fan base was so old that if we have less fans one year over the other, it was because of death.
Oh, okay.
That was the joke, right? Because a lot of our fans were just an older generation. Now, if you're judging, like we had a ton of fans. We filled our stadium, right? Whatever, most fans in the CAA at the time. I don't know if it's still that way, but it used to be. But guess what? If you judged our popularity by like Twitter mentions, or if you judged our popularity by how many people are checking for us online and searching for us, I guarantee you we wouldn't have been near the top because, you know, they looked for us in like the yellow pages. Like it was a different generation thing. Are you judging TV ratings? What about people that cut the cord and they just watch on streaming or go to a bar or whatever it is to watch? It's very hard to get a brand valuation, especially when it comes down to something as serious as you're going to get your conference payout money, which is a massive chunk of change, decided by Q score, fame score. Like, who's more famous? That's tough to decide.
I also wonder how basketball is going to factor into this too, because Duke and Carolina have massive national followings on digital platforms.
Exactly.
On social media.
Look at this. Every fall, they fall way behind in their Q score. Every March, they jump to the front. What are they doing in the off season? It's like, oh, they're actually two of the headliners and maybe the biggest event on the sports calendar. So, yeah, people are going to talk about them. It's just tough.
But then, like, for example, NC State makes the run that they did to the Final Four. I mean, they're all over the country in terms of, like, national exposure. How does that factor in? Again, it's just – I don't know if I like the winning. Like, hey, if you get to the ACC championship game, you're playing in that game, you get a bigger piece of the pie, sure, that's okay. But, yeah, based off of some of the other stuff, I don't know if I fully buy it.
It's just a slippery slope.
It really is.
It's a slippery slope. And it's like, I don't know if I can think of one. It's going to be like Eric Church is going to be at every country show saying, all right, everybody take your phone out right now and tweet, let's go Tar Heels. And that's going to be 20,000 tweets about let's go Tar Heels.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not actual. That's just, trying to build up a brand. And then Scotty McCreery's going to do it at his, and it's just going to become a thing.
Mm-hmm.